Khamzat Chimaev wants to fight Alex Pereira. Who do you think will win, Chimaev or Pereira?
That is interesting. We haven't seen Pereira in there with an elite level wrestler, and many people tried to present Ankalaev that way. Don't forget, a lot of Chimaev's undefeated UFC record took place at 170 pounds.
I think Pereira, man, he will knock your face out.
Khamzat Chimaev stunned the MMA world when he claimed that Alex Pereira is avoiding him, insisting that the Brazilian champion wanted nothing to do with a potential clash.
Everyone knows this guy is not my level. That's why he's running away. Why accept a fight against Duplessis? Why he not accept a fight against me? I destroyed the guy 5 rounds, but he's saying like, I'm not famous.
From Chimaev's perspective, his mission in the UFC has always been straightforward. He never hid the fact that he wants to dominate anyone who stands across from him, and he says he entered the organization to overpower every opponent put in front of him. After seizing the middleweight championship, he expected the road ahead to be full of high-stakes opportunities, and one of the names he targeted immediately was Alex Pereira. In his mind, that matchup made complete sense. Whether it happened at middleweight, light heavyweight, even further up the scale. What he did not expect, according to him, was for Pereira to distance himself from the idea entirely. Chimaev has repeatedly explained that he believes the newly crowned light heavyweight champion is avoiding him. At one point, he mentioned that Pereira dismissed the matchup by claiming he was the bigger star and therefore did not see the need to entertain that fight. Chimaev couldn't understand how fame could determine matchups, especially when fighters ordinarily push for the biggest and toughest names available. He seemed genuinely frustrated and insisted that interest from fans, fighters, and the promotional machine should be enough reason for the bout to happen.
Well, Duplessis Pearson is good striker, one of the best strikers. Good fight for me. Everyone knows that, UFC knows that, but UFC don't want to give this guy from me. I don't think so. He want that fight. It's gonna be not respect for Alex. He accept the fight. They're gonna pay good for Alex, you know. Like, one more fight. And I'm up next place.
This whole standoff only grew when Chimaev shifted gears from middleweight and began talking about moving up in weight. Instead of defending his newly won belt as his first priority, he started entertaining loftier goals. After dismantling Dricus du Plessis and taking the title at UFC 319, he shocked people by immediately mentioning Pereira's name. While many champions choose to settle into their division first, he seemed determined to chase history right away. He talked openly about challenging himself in higher weight classes, convinced that his wrestling could neutralize Pereira's striking regardless of the division. The idea made waves across the MMA world because fans love ambitious champions who call out dangerous opponents.
Speaking of call-outs, Khamzat's also been calling you out as well.
He's another one. There's a lot of options to look at. He's probably the last option. And it's the same thing. He's talking to, make some noise.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Pereira appeared more intrigued by the possibility of competing at heavyweight. Instead of responding positively to Chimaev's call-out, he shifted toward discussing a future matchup with Jon Jones at the proposed White House event in 2026. That announcement surprised nearly everyone. He would remain at light heavyweight for some time. Pereira expressed interest in jumping into the heavyweight division and making a massive super fight happen with the former two-division champion Jones. That ambition drew a lot of attention, especially since Jones had been throwing hints of his own about returning to the cage.
Jon Jones versus Alex Pereira for the BMF at heavyweight. Yes, I said it. It makes sense. It makes perfect sense. You want to have an American headline in White House. You want to do it with the greatest of all time. John's not going to fight Tom Aspinall. That's fine. Alex Pereira's been calling this fight. He's a bigger name than Tom Aspinall. And what he was able to do to Magomed Ankalaev, I remember talking to John, and John was like, dude, I just want super fights. Maybe you can have Tom as a co-main against somebody, against Francis Ngannou. Francis is about to become a free agent.
I like where your head's at today, Henry. Every star you have are saying, yes, I want to fight. And I haven't said it yet, Dana, but you want to call me, yeah, I'm down too.
The UFC's probably going to go the route of Pereira and Jones, and I'm not mad at that either.
Chimaev didn't take Pereira's focus on Jones lightly. Instead, he doubled down and said he would be willing to move to heavyweight if that was what it took to make the fight happen. His confidence never wavered as he pictured controlling Pereira on the ground, just as he'd done to so many others. He had spent months hinting that Pereira was the biggest fight available for him financially and competitively. He insisted that everyone watching the UFC knew how the matchup would unfold, and his belief in his wrestling advantage remained unshakable.
I don't know if you're aware of this yet, but middleweight champion Khamzat Chimaev has called you out and said that congratulations, but now you guys need to finish your business. Are you aware of what business that is, and are you interested in him moving up to fight you at this stage?
O campeão peso médio te desafiou, Khamzat Chimaev, falou parabéns, mas vocês têm negócio a resolver. Que negócios são esses e te interessa?
Obrigado pelos parabéns, mas eu quero uma super luta, igual eu falei, quero lutar nos pesos pesados. Então, só agradeço só pelos parabéns.
Thanks for congratulating me, but all I want is a super fight. I want to fight at heavyweight, but all I can say is thank you.
As both men traded remarks, the rivalry escalated. Chimaev grew frustrated that the UFC seemed uninterested in granting him the Pereira fight, which only deepened his feeling that the Brazilian champion preferred other options. Things even drifted into personal territory as Chimaev threw jabs at Pereira and his coach Glover Teixeira, turning the situation into more than just a business conversation. The tension started to look less like competitive hype and more like genuine irritation. At the same time, future inside the octagon became clearer. He revealed a specific plan built around one final fight at middleweight before officially moving up to light heavyweight. In his eyes, becoming a two-division champion aligned perfectly with the growing trend of multi-belt fighters in the UFC. He referenced how other champions such as Ilia Topuria and Islam Makhachev had successfully moved up in weight to capture gold in a second division. Chimaev wanted to join that group, and he felt Pereira was the ideal opponent to achieve that milestone.
Important thing, they pay good. They're gonna pay good for Alex, That's why I'm pushing for that. But in my weight class, whoever. There is Imamo, there is Strickland, there is Hernandez, whoever. But I wanna, for sure, one more fight, and I will go up next weight class.
However, the UFC arena itself appeared to take a more cautious stance. Based on early reports, the promotion wasn't enthusiastic about granting him an immediate light heavyweight title shot. They preferred he defend his middleweight belt first, especially with a division full of contenders waiting their turn. Among those contenders, Nassourdine Imavov stood out as the most deserving candidate. He put together a streak of impressive wins, including victories over Caio Baralho, Israel Adesanya, Jared Cannonier, Roman Dolidze, and Brendan Allen. With consistency and strong momentum behind him, Imavov became the obvious name in the title conversation. Chimaev didn't seem eager to face Imavov, largely because the two fighters were familiar with each other. Still, he didn't dismiss the possibility. He made it clear that if the UFC insisted, he wouldn't turn the matchup down. But in a perfect world, he wanted a fight that led to bigger opportunities, whether in terms of financial reward or career legacy.
With Imavov, because it does seem like the top one right now, you have trained with him, right?
We didn't train MMA, we just wrestled something. I was there, I just tried to help him. He's a good guy, I know him, he knows me. If you ask me, I don't want to fight this guy because he's we know each other. Like a Muslim, he's from Dagestan. You know how it's Dagestan, Chechen people will be a lot of drama, I don't like about it. But if you see once, he's never gonna say no.
As conversations surrounding his future continued to grow, Chimaev also made headlines for an unexpected reason. He had recently spent time with Jon Jones and even trained with the legendary fighter during a visit to Chechnya. The two exchanged friendly wrestling sessions, sparking even more intrigue about whether Chimaev might eventually learn from Jones in the United States. Chimaev expressed interest in that partnership, especially since Jones repeatedly teased potential matchups with Pereira. That dynamic created an interesting triangle involving three of the UFC's most dominant athletes.
Chechnya, they had Jon Jones over there.
Jon Jones is a legend. Chechnya was waiting for that. People are posting this wrestling. It wasn't real wrestling. I'm always respectful to my guests. It wasn't me who is trying to take him down. He started first, and then it slowly becomes to the wrestling. Someone starts to wrestle with me, my body's going for takedowns. It wasn't my choice. I hope so one day I can train with him.
While fans speculated about fantasy matchups, Dricus du Plessis, the man Chimaev had defeated to win the title, shared his own perspective. Du Plessis made it clear that he didn't believe Chimaev would fare well against Pereira. After spending 25 minutes in the cage with Chimaev, he acknowledged the champion's dominance, but also said that Pereira's size and power at light heavyweight would create an entirely different challenge. Du Plessis couldn't see Chimaev getting through the Brazilian striking, and he felt the matchup was unrealistic in the near future. He also pointed out how massive Pereira looked when he fought Magomed Ankalaev, emphasizing that competing against someone naturally built for heavier weight class would not be the same experience as fighting middleweights. To him, the hype around the fight didn't match the practical reality.
Khamzat has called out Pereira. What do you make of that?
I mean, he's always had crazy call out. There's no way he beats Pereira, in my opinion. I think Pereira right now is one of the greatest to ever do this sport. He's a big guy. Even now at light heavyweight, he looked so big against Ankalaev. It was crazy. So, yeah, I think that's all hype.
Another fighter who weighed in on the debate was Beneil Dariush. Unlike Duplessis, Dariush saw the fight quite differently. He predicted that Chimaev would overwhelm Pereira with his wrestling and didn't hesitate to express that belief. He felt that the stylistic matchup favored Chimaev heavily, to the point where he worried that Pereira could end up dominating. But he also recognized the financial value of such a bout, saying the potential earnings could be tremendous for both fighters. The wrestling advantage Chimaev brings is unlike what Pereira encountered against Ankalaev. He believed that if the fight ever happened, the difference in grappling ability would be obvious once they engaged.
Well, when you mentioned that Khamzat would be good at 205 this past weekend, Alex Pereira, he just won back his title from Magomed Ankalaev, and then Khamzat called out Pereira. Would you like to see that fight happen?
For Pereira, no, I'd like to see him go fight a big fight like the John Jones fight or something. I feel like he's 38. He's maybe considering retiring. I don't want him to get mauled by Khamzat. I'm just being honest. I really don't. I want to see Pereira like ride off into the sunset with a big fight, big paycheck, and that's how I'd like to see Pereira finish his career.
So does that mean you would favor Khamzat in that fight against Pereira?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, the way Khamzat wrestles is very different than the way Ankalaev wrestles. Ankalaev seems to be more of almost like a Greco style, more body locks. He doesn't really go, he doesn't commit so much. Khamzat completely commits. Khamzat completely commits, completely turns the corner. He's able to get on your back. He's able to do so much more. Ankalaev doesn't have that kind of wrestling. Don't get me wrong, Ankalaev is a good wrestler, but not like Khamzat.
Brendan Allen later added his own thoughts, expressing confusion about why Chimaev was so focused on fighting Pereira when he had yet to defend his middleweight title. Allen saw Chimaev as someone who talked big, but had a lot left to prove at 185 pounds before jumping weight classes. He was puzzled that Chimaev was targeting a second belt rather than establishing dominance in his current division. According to Allen, gaining another title should come only after truly securing the first. He also noted that Chimaev wasn't cutting the extreme amount of weight that Pereira once did at middleweight, meaning the situations weren't comparable. Allen found Chimaev's timing unusual and didn't see a two-division quest in his near future.
What do you think of Khamzat calling out Alex Pereira and wanting to move up to 205 before he even has a title defense?
I think that's kind of like the story of Chimaev, right? Like, he just talks a lot. He gets a lot of eyes. Like, it's not to the degree, but it's like Conor talking just to stay relative. Obviously, like, Chimaev's not that bad, right? He doesn't say that much stuff and that much reckless stuff, but yeah, I don't know. I think he's got a lot of work to do in our division first, and it's not like he's a huge 85er that's cutting a lot like Alex was to get to 85, to where it's like, all right, I became a champion, I defended once, like, let's just go up or whatever. So
as all these opinions and possibilities continue swirling, the situation looks increasingly complex. On one hand, Chimaev's ambitions are clear: capture one more win at middleweight, and then chase Pereira at light heavyweight, and perhaps even move toward heavyweight if necessary. On the other hand, Pereira has his own plan, possibly involving a historic showdown with John Jones. Meanwhile, the UFC has its own priorities, and the middleweight division has fighters who rightfully expect their chance at the belt. Still, the idea of Chimaev versus Pereira refuses to disappear. The conflict between their styles, personalities, and weight class plans creates a perfect recipe for endless discussion. Whether they eventually meet in the cage or end up moving in entirely different directions, the story continues drawing attention. Fans remain curious, fighters keep weighing in, and Chimaev's initial claim that Pereira is running from him only adds fuel to a rivalry that might one day turn into one of the biggest fights the UFC could make.